What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Next Guy Up podcast weekend preview. We've got a super exciting episode for everybody this weekend. We've got football, we've got bowl games, we've got transfer portal. Fantasy playoffs are starting for everybody. The boys are fired up for a weekend full of football. We've got a little bit of a different schedule. We've got Christmas parties. We've got, it's Christmas time. So we've got me and Zach now, and then me and Mason in a little bit, and then me and Zach will come back and wrap you guys up. But without further ado, let's dive into the episode. Zach, you just missed our fantasy playoffs by Jalen Hurts taking the knee. How do you feel?
Man, what a bummer. So, we ended up with like a four-way tie for the last two playoff spots. So those two teams went, and so Mason ended up riding over me, even though I beat him. I beat him. No, he beat me a couple weeks ago, and then I won this week, and he lost, but he's still winning over me. So it was a really tough break. I had to think back to that week where Jalen Hurts took a knee and lost me that game in a tie. Kept me out of the playoffs. I thought I had a run in me. I really did. I was kind of excited. I didn't exactly know what the tiebreaker was going to be. I think it ended up being, we split the series, me and Mason did, in the regular season, and so I think it came down to total points scored, which he did outscore me, so fair and square. He won, but I just think back to that knee that would have put me automatically in the playoffs.
Yeah,
it's a bummer.
That's a tough way to go out.
I really feel like my team is pretty good too. That was the bummer. I feel like I had a chance.
Yeah,
I had a chance to make a run. Austin Eckler had some injuries throughout the season that really kind of put a damper on my team. Deebo Samuel was injured for some stretches there too, and so I had some star players not be super healthy throughout the year.
Yeah,
but at the end of the day, really my goal is always not last place, and we hit that.
Yeah.
No waffles for me this year.
No waffles, and you still have a chance to win the losers bracket, so you can win your money back.
Make my money back on the losers bracket. I think I've got a decent chance at that. So. I'm out here battling still. I was setting my lineup earlier. I'm ready to go to war still. Fantasy's not over.
I'm matched up against your dad this weekend. I think we have a budding rivalry in the fantasy.
Yeah.
It's been brewing for the last couple of years. We like to poke at each other a little bit. He's got multiple guys in his starting lineup that are out, and they're playing tonight. So I'm monitoring that closely.
That would be devastating. First round of the playoffs.
If he starts guys that are injured and out, he will. The conspiracies will never end from him.
It'll be like back in the day. We didn't schedule these Thursday night games. What are we doing?
So I definitely don't want to tell him because I just want to see him just get so mad. It'll be something.
Boy, throw a season away out of some. That would be tough.
That would be tough. So. It's good. I haven't made the playoffs the last 2 years, so I made it.
I feel like it's been a while for me as well. So
I made it. I was the top four team, so felt good. Have a nice record. My team full of Jaguar players, so
that was nice.
Need the boys to show up on Sunday night.
I will say I don't know how my dad did it because he basically threw the draft after about the third round. He started just picking like old people, like old guys.
Yeah.
And then Keenan Allen all of a sudden like went off this year and he ended up with like a good team somehow.
I traded him Travis Kelce.
Oh, that was a mistake probably. Yeah.
No, Travis Kelce, he traded me. It was like a straight up, he gave me Evan Ingram and somebody else for Travis Kelce. And Ingram, I believe, is having Evan Ingram is the 5th rated tight end. And Travis Kelce is, never mind, he is the 1st. Didn't realize he was having that good of a year. Oh, I just looked at his stats. He had a game where he had like 200 yards and 3 touchdowns.
That would probably do it.
That'd do it. Well, and he has changed his lineup. I just checked. Daggone it.
What about me?
Now I got to play him at full strength.
You gotta bring the whole heat. Huh?
Dang it! I was hoping he had Keenan Allen, and he's not playing tonight. So I was hoping
Oh,
he was
then
gonna.
that's gonna hurt him though. Keenan Allen, I feel like has been his like ace in the hole.
Yeah, for sure. And he still has C.J. Stroud in his lineup, who's I don't think is gonna play. But
Uh
but that's some fantasy talk. I know no one cares about anybody else's fantasy team in the world.
it's true. It's true.
All right, so we have got there's a lot going on in college football without a lot going
There is.
on. There's not bowl games
Yes.
start this week. Me and
Yep.
Zach were talking before. They're not good this week at all. In college bowl games, they are kind of hard to bet and keep up with right now with as many transfers and guys protecting themselves for the draft. So it is just
Yep.
a whole new world of trying to bet and look at these games and seeing who does care, who's got guys playing and who doesn't. Um, so
Yeah.
it's definitely made it interesting. Maybe some of the luster of bowl games has fallen off just because of all this transfer stuff.
Yeah,
But
I heard another podcaster describe it as like an exhibition games almost more than like like a meaningful game at the end of the year, which I think is probably accurate.
yeah,
I think
I
it's a
agree with
fun
that.
way to showcase like players who maybe will be in different positions next year. It's a nice opportunity to just kind of have some fun with your team. But all in all, I do think that they have lessened impact, with the exception maybe like the New Year's Six bowl games. I feel like people will still show out for, and I feel like the playoffs obviously do, but for a lot of the lesser bowl games, it's kind of just a chance for your players to get one last chance on the field to look at some different types of people and kind of have one fun game against a team you normally wouldn't schedule,
Right.
which I think is fun.
And I've seen a lot where coaches of younger teams that aren't getting hit with the transfer portal like the bowl games
Mm-hmm.
because it's extra practice. So you get a lot more practice for your
Oh
younger
yeah,
guys.
for sure.
More because you don't get as many reps anymore. They've really cut down on how much you're allowed to practice. So it
Yeah,
does help as far as like developing young guys and maybe showing out for your recruits. But there are definitely some very big names in the transfer portal. I've got like the quarterbacks listed, but there's plenty of other big players
oh
that
yeah,
I can't even keep up with it all. Honestly, until it's. I'm glad we have such a long break from end of the season to the beginning of the next, so you can figure out where everybody landed.
yeah. And there's a couple players who are still kind of up in the air, which is like, I feel like Nebraska's been getting a ton of attention in the transfer portal.
Yeah,
McCord from Ohio State was really thought to be going there, and he kind of recently pulled back and said, "Nah, probably not." There's a couple big names who there was a 5-star from Georgia
yeah.
who also was thinking Nebraska as well, and so I don't know that they've got something going on down over there. I think they might be hitting the portal very hard.
They've got some big NIL money, and Matt Rule, for as
Yep, I think
much
people
of
like him.
like a disaster as he was with the Carolina Panthers, he was a
Yep,
very good college coach. I mean, he turned around a bad Temple program. He took over Baylor after all of their kind of stuff went down and they were in shambles, and he took them to being back to like the top of the Big 12. So I mean, he's a
yeah,
very good college coach, very good recruiter, and he's good with quarterbacks, and that's if you can get a good quarterback and develop him in college, that's what makes you different than everybody else.
yeah.
I mean, I think
I
there's
think people are already circling Nebraska next year as like probably going to be a much better team. They were
yeah,
not very good this year, but you could tell that um, they kind of had some potential. And I think
yeah,
with a really big class coming in, and uh, they can get some good players in those positions, I think they could be very good.
I agree for sure. So a couple of the quarterbacks I wanted to hit on, Dylan Gabriel going to Oregon. So it seems like Oregon is going to
I know, just replace
keep
them, man.
keep tapping into the transfer portal to that way they never have to go to a young unproven quarterback, which makes sense if you're a team like Oregon who's just stacked at every other position. Um,
It is an
Dylan
interesting
Gabriel,
strategy. Just be like, let's plug in a veteran who's proven himself already, not have to worry
right,
about like a 5-star quarterback who may end up being a flop in college.
right. I feel like Dylan Gabriel, he fits this Bo Nix
Yeah.
category of dude's been in college forever. I feel like.
Yeah.
I mean, he was at
True.
Florida. He was at Florida State, and then he was at UFC, and then he was at Oklahoma this last year, where he put up some video game type numbers in that offense, and then now he's at now he's at Oregon. So just been around forever. Notre Dame is going back to another older college player, Riley Leonard from
Yeah.
Duke is transferring to Notre Dame. I feel like he's gonna give him the same hype that Sam Hartman did. Like he's a good player, fits their what they want, athletic guy who can just get the ball to where it needs to go. But do they have the athletes and receivers and all that stuff to make a real difference when they
I'm
have
gonna
to
go ahead
pretty
and
much go ahead and
I'm
go
gonna
ahead.
go ahead and lock in my Notre Dame not to make the playoffs next year ticket.
It might only
Uh,
be like -600 this time.
I mean, there's 12 spots, so I mean, there's a lot of
Oh,
potential there.
ooh, yeah, you
Um,
taking a gamble.
that,
They're
that might
gonna
be a
get
little bit
Notre
of a
Dame. They're
gamble.
gonna get Notre Dame in if there's 12.
They'll stretch for sure. Yeah, they'll do whatever they can.
But Riley Leonard, he's a good player. He had a good year for
Yeah,
Duke. I really expected him to land at Texas A&M with his old head coach. So
yeah.
that was a surprise to me.
You gotta hate it. I hate it for Duke. I feel like they've kind of clawed their way out of the trenches and then just
And,
basically be starting over again.
right. I saw
It is a bummer.
they hired somebody's defensive coordinator to be Kentucky's defensive coordinator to be their head coach.
Ah,
So who knows?
interesting.
And then let's see. Those are the two big quarterback names that have officially landed somewhere.
Yeah,
And then you've got DJU formerly of Clemson and then Oregon State. He's now back in the transfer portal, and he's getting some looks from Florida State and Mississippi State. Looks like those are going to be his final two. He was in the running for the Ohio State. Like he was saying he was going to transfer there, but it looks like they don't really want him anymore.
yeah,
Because it looks like Cam Ward from Washington State, which if you're not a fan of Pac-12 teams or gambling, you probably have no clue who this kid is. But he's electric. Washington State just could not ever put a team around him, but he is in the same
yeah.
like mold of a C.J. Stroud, Justin Fields, like super athlete, great arm. He will be dangerous if he goes to Ohio State because of just what they have at receiver every year. This will be the best team he's ever played on, hands like head and shoulders. And he
Mm,
was putting up good stats at Washington State when they couldn't
yeah.
figure out how to get him a receiver. So that's what I'm definitely keeping an eye on because Ohio State, it's weird. Like their whole team just entered the transfer portal, and now there's rumors
Crazy.
that
Yeah.
Jason Day is shopping himself to the NFL. Like he's trying to get an NFL job. Maybe not even as a head coach, but he'd take like an offensive coordinator job, and that's weird.
It's wild that just a couple of games against Michigan can just take your whole like legacy and just put it in question. You win every
Well,
game except for these 3 games versus Michigan or whatever it's been, and then all of a
yeah,
sudden it's like, is he a good coach?
he's only lost 7 games ever since taking over for Urban,
It's crazy.
and like 2 of them being playoff games.
Yeah,
But
that's wild.
I've heard that there's some recruiting violations that are about to pop up on him,
Yeah,
and he doesn't want to deal with it because
they're
he's
in
gonna.
shambles over there.
The whole Big Ten just they tell on it. So that's the one thing the SEC. We stand together. We hide stuff for each other. Ohio State went after Michigan for the stealing of signs, and now Michigan is calling them out on some recruiting violations.
They came right back at him. Yeah,
Yeah, it's they don't stand for each other. At least the SEC were like, all right, well, at least we'll get Bama. Bama's in there. Let's hope they win. It makes us look good.
right. Yeah, that's true. That is true. Big Ten likes to destroy itself. Yep. I did just look to Kyle McCord, the Ohio State quarterback who just turned down Nebraska. A lot of rumors are saying he might be headed to Syracuse, which would be very interesting. That's like the number one place that he's been looked at to land. So
I wonder if he's like
Would
from
be
the
very
area or
weird.
something.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because they got a new head coach coming in. They lost a lot in the transfer portal and the draft, so that'd be an odd choice. I don't know. I don't think he was very good anyway.
No, I don't think he is either. Yeah.
So maybe it's good that he's going to go somewhere where he can just kind of be mediocre and finish out his college days and get a
Yeah.
grad assistant job and
And if
become a
there's a question
coach.
that multiple good quarterbacks going to Nebraska as well, that might have pushed him away. And like he didn't want to get benched
That's true. Well, and, I mean
if they get somebody else.
they have Purdy's little brother, who I think will keep the job unless somebody crazy transfers in. Because that 5-star recruit that they maybe have flipped from Georgia. He's a
Yeah.
freshman. I don't think they're going to roll with a freshman yet.
Yeah. I think that could be true. There should be a lot of competition there. That's probably accurate.
Yeah, I don't. I think he just wants to go somewhere where he can start. He had to sit for a while at Ohio State. He came in with CJ, so he was behind Justin
Yeah.
and CJ Stroud. I think that's why he got to start this year because he put in the time and kind of like a Joe Milton thing where he was
Not the
loyal,
greatest.
but
Yeah.
but he got rewarded for his loyalty in a
Sure.
year that maybe shouldn't have, but is what it is.
And I know we have a lot of Tennessee fans out there, so just real quick, Tennessee in the portal has been. It's if you've been following it at all, you've seen a pattern, and it's like the entire secondary has left for the portal. Like, and I say that, and it's almost not a joke. It's like 7 or 8 of our secondary are gone to other places. Lane Kiffin was in town a few days ago. He kind of posted some, like he usually does. He was trolling.
Yep.
Posted some pictures from like the Knoxville airport and stuff. And then a couple days later, it's rumored that we had some players that are probably going to end up going to Ole Miss and transferring there, which is a big bummer. A couple of starters on defense, and I think it's just people. And I still wonder what's happening. You wonder if it's like they're making a switch at the secondary coaching staff, and people know that, and so they're leaving. Or you wonder if they're bringing in a ton of new talent that they're planning on. A lot of the people who are leaving are older guys who are just honestly not super good and who have never really gotten to that next level. And so where they just realize they're probably going to be getting passed up for starting spots next year if we get some transfer guys in. So you wonder which is the reality. Is it they're jumping ship before a new coach comes in, or is it they're afraid that they're about to get passed up by better people? So I hope it's the latter, but here we are.
Has Tennessee really had like any big name like rumors of getting a transfer? I know they were trying to get that guy from Texas A&M.
That is the worrisome part of all of it. Is there have been a couple of people that we've been looking at, and all of them have fallen through almost. We had a couple of tight ends who we wanted but have flipped, and so it's been really weird. We had a 5-star defensive lineman who ended up basically flipping to Colorado. He was like the last 5-star on the board, and then we've had a couple of tight ends, like I said, come in and then cancel visits and things like that, and so it is a little worrisome about some of our off season so far. I think things have not been going super well.
Yeah.
So again, it's either there is a long game and we're turning down people or not pursuing certain people because we know that there's others that are going to be there, or we're missing out on people and we're in trouble. So I honestly don't know which it is at this point. I think it's kind of a mystery.
Well, I feel like
Are we playing chess or checkers and losing?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I feel like Heupel does like his classes that he's recruited the last few years, and I don't really feel like we hit the portal super hard last year either as far as adding. I know that's where we got like Bo from USC, the receiver, or Brew.
Brew McCoy. Yeah.
But I mean, other than that, I can't think of any big transfers in.
Keenan Pili from BYU, he came in as linebacker, and he got injured in like the first 2 games.
Right.
And that really, really derailed some of our season because we were kind of relying on him to be a starter.
Yeah, he was the play
But he's
caller.
announced he's coming back though next
Oh,
year,
okay.
which is great. Um,
I do feel like Heupel is a
yeah.
guy who likes his classes and likes to develop them, and so now we're because this should be what his second big class that he brought in as far as
Uh,
recruits because he's been
I
here.
think that sounds right. Yeah.
This is year 4, so this should be year 4 and year 5 is when you really start seeing your coaches like true guys. Like all the guys he inherited should be gone by now, and this should be strictly guys he recruited and now transfers in at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. And there was one other name to have in mind is Walter Nolan. He was that big Texas A&M defensive tackle you were talking about earlier.
Yeah,
He was recruited by Tennessee pretty heavy before going to A&M, and so there is a lot of talk about him coming. It looks like he's probably going to Oregon. He looks like they might be stacking up a pretty hefty class. But I think Tennessee is basically second place in that one right now. Justin Jolly was that tight end who flipped, who ended up going to. I think they just announced he's going to NC State. So it was weird, some weird stuff happening, honestly, in the portal. We've taken a lot of L's, it seems like. So I don't know where that's going, but
listen, we got Nico next year. That's all we need, right? Nico and Squirrel White.
boy, I hope so. Yeah, boy, I hope Nico pans out to be at least some of what he's expected to be, or else we will be in trouble. Yep, I think that's true. So last college news, maybe here. There are some bowl games this weekend. None of them are particularly intriguing, to be honest with you. But we did have a Heisman winner come out of the weekend. Jayden Daniels officially won the Heisman. It seems like it was pretty conclusive. I think he won by a decent margin over Penix.
Yeah.
And so shout out to Jayden Daniels, who which I think was the right call. If you look at the numbers alone, it was insane.
Yeah.
Insane gap between him and everyone else. But Penix did have a really good season. So did Bo Nix, honestly. So,
right.
Yeah.
I do like when they don't just make the award just like quarterback of the team that was, had the best record or something.
Which is basically what the NFL does with the MVP, I think.
Exactly. Like Jayden Daniels, for as much as you want to say like his team lost 3 games, well, he doesn't play on the defensive side. His defense was giving up like almost 50 points a game. He put up video game numbers like you can compare it to like Lamar Jackson's year where he won the Heisman, and his team was nowhere near any kind of contention for anything. Jayden Daniels had better stats of rushing and passing, so it was fun to see him win. I like Jayden Daniels. He's got a good story. Like when he transferred from Arizona State, all his former teammates were making videos, making fun of him. Like, we don't care. This guy was trash. Get him out of here. And then now he's got a Heisman Trophy, and he's probably going to be a top 15 pick in the NFL draft.
He's gonna get a bag for sure. Yeah,
yeah. He definitely has helped his draft stock immensely.
Okay, well, I'm gonna give my best matchup of the weekend here.
Yep.
Is that right, Tins?
Yeah, let's do that. Yep, and then we'll do the kick.
We'll throw it. Okay. So my best matchup, I'm actually not going to pick a bowl game. I'm going to dive into college basketball because there is a lot of basketball happening this weekend. A lot of really good basketball. So first I'm actually going to give 3 games to watch for. I'm going to just quickly run through them, not spend a ton of time. But UConn Gonzaga, number 5 and 10 in the country, play on Friday night. That is going to be a really good game against some very good teams. That's in like a tip-off tournament, so a neutral court. But you like seeing these top 10 teams go at each other to see in the beginning of the year before we settle into some conference schedules, especially with Gonzaga has a soft conference schedule. I think this could have a big impact on seeding coming into the end of season. So that's number 1. Next game, a huge game, North Carolina, Kentucky, a couple of blue bloods playing each other on a neutral court. Kentucky is 7-2. It took a very bad loss to UNC Wilmington recently, and so some people are saying that Kentucky is washed. some people are saying that.
Some
North Carolina also 7-2. Obviously looked very good against Tennessee earlier this season, but that was at North Carolina. So I think they're number 9 and 14th ranked in the nation. So a good matchup to see who's who there. And last one, the biggest one of the week on Peacock streaming, fun fact, is Arizona and Purdue, number 1 and number 3 facing off against each other. Arizona undefeated thus far. Purdue's only loss coming at that at the championship game of that tournament that they played in. I forget which one it was called. The Maui Invitational.
Yeah.
Zach Edey is a freak of nature. Should be in NBA. I don't know why he's still playing against children in college. Just because he thinks it's fun. I don't know. But that's going to be a good one to see kind of where that top is. I think a lot of people are, I think people think Purdue is very good because they are, but Arizona's also looked very good so far. So
yeah.
A fun one there. Some really big name top 10 teams matchups this weekend. So
I love this Arizona team. I'm
yeah,
pretty big on them as the college basketball season kind of takes over a lot of our like college football news and even NFL once it kind of wraps up. I'm gonna be beating the drum for Arizona. I think pretty hard. I like them in Kansas. They're like my two teams.
Kansas
right
is
now.
very good as well. Yeah.
Um,
So over Arizona, Purdue, you got Arizona 10s?
yeah, I got Arizona.
Hmm.
I'm not a believer in Purdue, but you're also
Yeah,
talking. I took Fairleigh Dickerson money line last year, and
You're
I
talking
said
to a
it
guy
all
who
day.
took the 16 seed to beat the 1 seed.
That Friday morning, because we were all together hanging out
Wild.
watching the games at Mason's apartment. I said it at 8:00 in the morning. I said Purdue is losing today, guys. I'm just letting you know. And my only
How much did you
regret,
bet on that?
I only
Yeah, you
put
won a
$10.
decent
I
bit
only
of
put
money on it, though.
I put $10 on it. I wish it was 1,000.
Dang.
It was plus 1,800 money line for. I mean that's crazy. That's parlay levels. That's like a
It is.
That's like a wild parlay that you just hope half of it hits.
Normally, I would say I would rely on a team with the big man to kind of step up in those scenarios, but they did not.
They did
And
not.
so we'll see what happens. I think a lot of teams are jumping on the bandwagon, though, of playing really tough games early in the season so that you have a lot. Well, for one, it makes for really interesting early season stuff. But secondly, I think your teams are much more prepared when March comes around to play those big games, which has been Tennessee's Achilles heel for a long time.
Yep.
And so Tennessee has played one of the toughest schedules in the nation. And I think it's gonna pay off. Whether we win, whether we go deep in the tournament or not, I think it's gonna at least prepare them for that. So
I agree. And then it helps you play different styles. Like for the
Right.
most part in your conferences, everyone plays the same kind of basketball. Like the Big
like a
Ten,
run and gun or like
right. Big Ten, everyone's playing half court, slow pace offense. And so when those teams go to the tournament and play a team that plays run and gun, I think that's where you see a lot of upsets. So play people that are outside of your conference. Go play the Pac-12. Go play the Mountain West or the SEC, and get those games against teams that play different styles. And like you said, I think it helps for March Madness for sure.
Agree. I think it makes for entertaining.
Yeah,
December.
it makes it fun too. Yeah, because instead of us like watching a very bad bowl game, we can. I mean, we'll have it on. I'm not gonna lie to the people. I've got 4 screens for a reason. I'll have them on, but I'll also have on these very important college basketball games.
Right. Okay. Well, I think it's time that we kick it to Tens and Mason. They are going to break down the NFL this week, and then we're going to wrap it up at the end. So here they are.
All right, guys. So you just heard from me and Zach. So now it is time for me and Mason to dive into the NFL part of the podcast. We're going to do our NFL recap of this last weekend, get into our best matchups of this upcoming weekend, and then we will get going on the gambling side of things. So Mason, NFL recap, I thought it was fitting that we put the Titans at the top of the list because they broke a 767 game streak this Monday night. What a wild Monday night. Both huge underdogs, both pulling the upset. Imagine if you had parlayed them together. It'd been probably a pretty nice return.
Well, that's crazy that you asked that, Tins. And he didn't even know. He set that up perfect because I have this stat $208,122.05 is how much you would have won if you would have bet $100 on Monday night underdog and rolled it over the past 5 weeks. So if you would have just bet the underdog money line the past 5 weeks, but that includes the 2 Monday night games, the 2 underdogs, you would have won and rolled it over each time. You would have won $200,000.
Yep,
It's a
because
pretty penny.
the
It's been all underdogs.
the Bengals beat the Jags last week,
Yeah,
and then I don't
and
remember
they
the game
were
before that.
underdog. Yeah, huge upset. So if you're thinking, I'll just throw in an extra leg on a parlay. This is a huge fan favorite. This is a huge favorite, 10-point favorite. You might want to check again because there's been some upsets, and we'll break it down here in a little bit on everything's coming down to the stretch for the playoffs. But I do want to go back to this game. I'm going to be honest. I've not been a Will Levis fan, but he sure did. He sure did buy me in a little bit. I'm gonna be honest about that. He put some bait out there. I may have took a little bit of it because he looked good. He looked like a fighter. He was all pumped up. He got me pumped up. If anybody that was watching that game, it was the Titans fumbling on a punt return, and I was like, it's over. And we had some group text going, and people was like, I hope you didn't turn your TV off because there's a comeback coming. And we sure did. And Will Levis drove it down with no problem. And then Tua had the ball, and he's like shaking his head. All right, it's time. I got this. And
Check
a
down.
sack.
Oh yeah, no, you got a sack.
Sack, yeah, without Simmons on that line, by the way. So
Yep.
the heck of a win. I don't know if it. I will go ahead and say that my matchup, if you were listening last week, my matchup of the week last week was this game, and it did not disappoint. And I was and I said, which one's going to happen? Are we going to see if the Titans can be anywhere close to being good? Are they tanking for real? Or are the Dolphins, are they good or not? Are we going to figure that out? Because so far they win against really bad teams and they lose against really good teams. Well, so actually this past week, and I hate to say it to my Titans fans, we're not a good team, but we won that game and we beat the Dolphins. So I don't know what you take of it. I know Tyreek Hill was off the field for a little bit. So if people want to say that's the reason why they lost, but you can't just lose because of that one player. You got Waddle out there, you got Mostert out there, you got a Chain out there, so they should pick up the pace, but they were struggling.
Yeah, as far as injuries go, you can't place it on one player. I don't think there's any team in the NFL right now who is super healthy and not having some major injuries at this point, except for maybe the Chiefs. They're the only team I can really think of that. Which I mean, Pacheco's out for them, but that's not like the biggest deal. No, I think it kind of showed where the Dolphins are to me, that they are kind of a paper tiger. They, like you said, they beat them bad. They beat bad teams, but they don't have a win against a winning record. You can count the Broncos, but the Broncos have kind of did a 180 on their season since losing to the Dolphins.
Yeah,
which they're still. I mean, they're barely have a winning record anyway. So
76.
That's why when you were talking about how the Dolphins had the 1 seed. Destiny in their own hands. If they were to have won out or did what they're supposed to do, they'd get the 1 seed, have home field advantage, all playoffs in Miami. And now they've opened this door where actually the Bills have a path to win the NFC or AFC East now.
Wild.
It's not likely, but it's not the wildest thing I ever heard. So the scenario goes that the Dolphins still have the Ravens, the Cowboys, and the Jets. And if they were to go 1-2 before Week 18 when they play the Bills just have to win, I think, 2 more games, which they have. They have the Jets, the Chargers, which Justin Herbert just went on IR for the rest of the year, and the Cowboys this week, which they're actually they're a favorite over the Cowboys. So I'm kind of interested in the thinking of that. Like, where'd that line come from? It is definitely a Bills line. Like, I mean, it's a home favorite under 2.5. So Vegas knows something we don't. But yeah, I mean, we could be looking at Week 18 being for the AFC East when just 6 days ago the Dolphins were thinking 1 seed, and now they could be very possibly fighting for a wild card spot. I mean, this AFC is just it's wild. I don't think there's any clear cut like dominant team or team that's like head and shoulders better than everyone else like you normally get. There's normally like if you look at the NFC, I would say the 49ers, Eagles, and Cowboys are the top three. But when you look at the AFC, you could pick anybody to win the AFC, and I wouldn't like be surprised. Like, you can make an argument for all of them. So it's definitely making for a very fun end of the year.
Which the Ravens have a 1 game up against the Dolphins at 10-3. However, they are playing the Jags. Hopefully, Trevor Lawrence looks a little healthier, looks a little better the next week. It wasn't really his fault, though. I'm going to be honest. During that game, a lot of it was it was an overall team. The Jags. What?
Oh no,
you
I'm
want to
good.
talk about?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm frozen on my end, but you're good.
No, yeah. So, but the Dolphins, if you're the Ravens, Chiefs, the Jags, and you see the Dolphins lose that game, you're wondering, oh, we have a chance now, especially with them not looking good and some of the teams playing the Dolphins in the next couple of weeks. So we'll see. But you got the Ravens and then the Dolphins at 9-4. You have the Chiefs that lost their game last week. Very controversial. You've already heard it, so we're not going to really break it down. But, the play that got called back. So they lost that game, and now they're at 8-5. They play the Patriots, which is 3-10 this upcoming week. The Jags play the Ravens. That's probably the biggest game, which you will a sneak peek kind of break down here a little bit. And that does get, I think, so it gets a little watery, and you're like, it could go either way at the top. Here at the bottom is like where I'm just like, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
The Browns are at 8-5. But they have creeping up on them. The Steelers at 7-6. You have the Colts at 7-6. You have the Texans at 7-6. The Broncos, which you talked around, a big turnaround at 7-6. The Bengals at 7-6. The Bills at 7-6, and then drops off after that. But that's a lot of teams that you're like, holy cow, and a lot's riding on it. So
that's a log jam.
Yeah,
and I think the are technically still alive for the 1 seed as well. They still have the Ravens and Bengals. So the AFC North.
They play the Bears this week. So if they win out and some teams lose,
this is the most wide open the AFC has been, because I think we got so used to the last few years the Chiefs. I mean, Patrick Mahomes has never played a road playoff game. Yeah, and then before that, it was Tom Brady and the Patriots. Mm-hmm. And Peyton Manning and the Colts, and big Ben Roethlisberger and the Steelers. Like, those were the set guys in the playoff spots. They would kind of trade around having the first overall seed, normally the Patriots. But this I do prefer it this way, of having a little bit more wide open. It makes the rest of the year a little bit more exciting. And
because sometimes well, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, it just makes it feel like anyone still has a chance.
Yeah,
home field advantage is a big deal in the playoffs.
Yeah,
I've been to a home playoff game. It is a whole different experience. Like, it's a fun, crazy time.
And they won while you were there as well.
Yeah, we're hoping to repeat that. I'm trying to get down there for a playoff game. The tickets go on sale tomorrow. I'm gonna try and get some.
That'd be exciting. Well, I will say, you brought up, and I'm kind of backtracking to the Browns, how they have a chance. I found this crazy stat. Joe Flacco's back, everybody. In the last 2 starts, he's had 5 touchdowns. Kenny Pickett has had 12 starts. He's been out with Trubisky. You want to know how many touchdowns he's had? Throwing. 7. These are all throwing.
7?
He had 6. So you're talking 12 starts, and he's had 6 touchdown passes. And Joe Flacco's had 2 starts. He's 38, everybody. And he's had 5 off the couch. He literally straight up said it. He was just like waiting. He was on a practice. He was on the Browns practice squad. Didn't even think he was going to play. Off the couch, 5 touchdowns. So, do I like the Browns? But he's kind of fun to root for at this point. You're talking about somebody that's kind of at the back end.
Yeah,
So
I think what I would like is the Browns Ravens to play each other in playoffs.
that'd be interesting to watch.
Just because Joe
I could see that.
Flacco returns to Baltimore.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, the guy who
And
brought him a Super Bowl.
and I actually think that they could legitimately beat them with that defense
Yep.
being as good, if not better, than the Ravens defense. They can run the ball like the Ravens can. It would be very similar. Well, besides the quarterbacks, because the quarterbacks are very different. You got a hybrid,
Very different.
Yes.
Well, I don't know. Joe Flacco was running around like he was 21 against the Jags this last weekend. I kept seeing defenders bounce off of him and him scramble around. I was like, what is happening in my life right now?
Pretty crazy.
It was down bad.
So I do want to break down the NFC because I know we went AFC heavy, but you got the 49ers at 10-3, the Cowboys at 10-3, and then you have the Lions, Buccaneers at 6-7 in their division. The Eagles at 10-3, the Vikings at 7-6, the Packers at 6-7, and then you got the Rams, the Seahawks, the Falcons, the Saints, all at 6-7. And you still have a couple teams that are actually still in contention. You got the Bears at 5-8 that are apparently still in contention. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be very interesting, but we'll break some of that down, like some of the matchups for next week. I have my matchup of the week being several matchups of the week. So we can break some of that down here in a minute when it comes to that. But is there anything that kind of stands out to you when it comes to like the standings?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just it's unfortunate. Somebody has to win the NFC South and get a playoff game. At this point, I do think it's the Buccaneers that ends up doing that. But a team I'm kind of keeping my eye on, and I don't know that I'm not trying to say they could make a Super Bowl run here, but I think the Rams are going to get into the playoffs, and with a quarterback like Matt Stafford with his weapons, maybe they could pull an upset on a team that's maybe not preparing for them, because I don't think the Rams are a team you really want to play in the playoffs because they can score with anybody. Their defense is down. I mean, they've lost a lot of pieces on that side of the ball, but they still have Aaron Donald, who is, last time I checked, the best defensive tackle in the league. So I like the Rams. I think they're going to take the playoffs, the second playoff spot in the NFC West. I think the Seahawks, we're about to start seeing tumble down. Geno Smith's hurt. Even with him, I just wasn't.
Drew Lock threw 2 picks.
Yeah, I'm not high on Geno Smith anyway, or their team. I think it'd be in the best interest of the Seahawks to maybe lose out and get a better draft pick, because they need to get a quarterback of the future, because they do have some very nice young players and some stuff to build around.
Yeah.
But I think the NFC is pretty much 49ers, Cowboys, Eagles. It's going to be one of those three. I really don't see where anyone could challenge them at this point, especially the 49ers. The 49ers, I feel like they give me like the vibe of, unless they have an injury or they don't show up prepared, they're not going to lose until they meet up with whoever's in the Super Bowl. And even then, I don't know if anyone has the firepower to keep up with them.
Yeah. Well, I was going to suggest, this is not an official play, but you can look at your books. Some of them have, like, you can go to the team, like futures, go to the team, and it will say bet plus 400 for them to make it past the wild card or make it past the, the next round. They have certain ones, make it to the Super Bowl plus, like, it's usually really huge.
Yeah.
So you could kind of look and see, like, if you think that they're going to win the first round, like the wild card, but they'll actually play like the 49ers or whatever on a bye. Because if they have a low seed, they're more than likely going to play that team on the bye. Then you could bet them just to win the wild card. That's not like a horrible bet. I might look into that. So not official play because we don't even know the odds, but just something interesting to kind of look at. Because with those weapons and with that coach have some experience, they're not a team to sleep on. So
yeah, and now's the time too to start taking Super Bowl matchups. The price is not going to get any better from here out. Few weeks left. I don't think there's going to be a lot of movement. I mean, you could take 49ers and then just go and take the matchup with every AFC team. And I feel like you're going to have a pretty good chance of hitting that. And the odds
It's
are
not
going
a
to be
bad
good.
idea. Yeah.
And that's kind of a way of having some future tickets instead of just betting on a singular team to win Super Bowl, because there's really no value in it right now to bet.
Yeah.
49ers Super Bowl winner, I think, is like plus 250.
It's crazy.
And then Chiefs is next. Them and Eagles, I think, are both at like 500, depending on whatever book you're on. So that's just a fun way of having. I'm very big in having tickets for the Super Bowl. Like, it's
Keeps
fun to
things
bet.
interesting.
Yeah, it's fun to bet on the Super Bowl, like day of props and everything. But I like to really just have a few of those and then just watch the game. I like to have my tickets beforehand, and that way you have something to root for in the playoffs too.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Keeps things interesting. So, well, let's transition over to the matchup of the weekend. We all know Tinsley, so I'm going to kick us off. And I'm kind of cheating with my matchup of the weekend, but I'm going to say all day Saturday. Yeah, if you didn't know, there's actually NFL on Saturday. Looks like a perfect day to stay in on a cold day and watch some great matchups. It's way better than I ever would have anticipated. All of them have winning records and they all are in playoff contention. We start out with I know it's not the prettiest team. They only put up 3 points. I get it. But the Vikings at the Bengals, both backup quarterbacks, maybe even third strings. But they're both playoff contention, both winning records. Steelers at the Colts. And then you also have the Broncos comeback century over here and Dan Campbell leading Lions. So those are some fun games. Is there any of those that you're just like chomping at the bit to watch?
Well, chomping at the bit, maybe that would be. I don't know. It's funny. Both of my bets that I have going on are actually on Saturday too. But I'm really looking forward to that Broncos Lions game.
Yeah.
If I had to pick one, I'm I'm starting to lean into the theory that the Lions might be the NFC's version of the Dolphins, where they're not actually that good. They have
Hmm.
a good offense. Dan Campbell's a very overrated coach, in my opinion. And
Wow.
their defense is bad. Like, their defense is very bad. They've been getting lit up the last few weeks. Um, so yeah, I would lean that game. I think that game is very important for the Lions to either show people like, hey, no, we're still, because they're still like a little bit of a path for like the Packers or the Vikings to take that division from them.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a very important game. And I think the Colts game is big for the Colts to keep their playoff contention, but the Steelers, I think they're just a dead team walking at this point. Mr. Trubisky is bad.
Yeah.
He's really bad.
They still find ways to win games with bad quarterback play. I don't
I
know how
know.
they do it,
I
but
don't either.
well, 4 of those teams that I mentioned out of the 8 that are playing, the Steelers, Colts, Broncos, and Bengals that all play on Saturday, they're all at 7-6. So I kind of
Wow.
mentioned it earlier, but there's a lot riding on Saturday a lot. Like, if you miss out completely, then you're probably missing a big shift of like this whole picture is going to look different on Sunday before Sunday even starts
Right.
than Saturday. So pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, I like when we get some Saturday games. Helps break it up too. Sometimes
Yeah.
early in the season of NFL, when the first slate has like 8 games going on, it's a lot. It's
Yeah.
it's a lot to keep up with.
And you
So
miss a bunch of play. You're switching
yeah,
over. You have NFL Red Zone, and you kind of just miss things. So it's kind of nice. I understand why not. Like, you don't want to take away college football. That's why they do
right.
it after like this break in between the bowl games and the season. But it's pretty nice. I always looked forward to like the game on Christmas or the couple games sometimes that they do on Christmas. So I enjoy a good Saturday game. It makes it feel like Sunday, and then you're like, oh wait, I have another day of the
A
weekend.
whole
So
nother day of football.
yeah. So
right.
go ahead and give your
Yeah,
exciting, like shocking matchup of
yeah.
the
This
weekend.
this will come to a shock to everyone. But I'm really looking forward to this Jaguars Ravens game. Duh, what a shocker. Here's the thing. I know people that don't like the Jaguars are tired of hearing me talk about them, but suck it up, Buttercup. You can fast forward a couple of minutes. This is a huge game. The Ravens now have control of the 1 seed. They're traveling to Jacksonville. It's the first time Jacksonville's had a Sunday night football game in over 10 years. It was 12 years before we had a last time we had a Monday night football game, and the Bengals came to town, and Jake Browning looked like prime Peyton Manning dicing us up. So that wasn't fun. I didn't like that or appreciate it. But the crowd was in it. They were hype. Um, I think that so the Jags have lost their last 2 games, and the Ravens have looked like the best team in the AFC, in my opinion. Uh, they are a home underdog in Jacksonville, and I think these last 2 weeks are the exact wake up call this team needed. Kind of went through some of the same things last year. And it's kind of funny. The Ravens were the game that we won, came back, beat the Ravens on the 2-point conversion that sparked the Jaguars' run of winning the AFC South and winning 6 of their last 7. So I am very excited for this game. I'm very nervous for this game. Um, I have no stats or matchup analysis or anything like that. I do just want to say that the Jaguars have averaged 29.5 points their last 4 games. This is not. I'm so tired of seeing all this dumb stuff on Twitter about is Trevor Lawrence living up to his draft expectations. Like, the dude is doing all he can. This is not on him. Our defense has fallen off the last few weeks for some reason, and we've got like 4 string left tackles playing against Myles Garrett last week. I don't know anybody would have expected any better. So I'm excited. We got some guys coming back from injury. I think it's going to be a fun game. I'm taking the over. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored on both sides. It should be a shootout.
So that's why it makes such a good team, Tens, is because you don't got stats, but I got stats. You know what the Jags needed?
I never have stats for the
Well,
Jags. I don't
you
like to
said
look
you didn't have stats, but then you kind of did rattle off some stats.
I
But
have some.
I
I
got,
just don't like
yeah.
sharing them. I just sometimes
But
they make me feel bad.
you know what the Jags have to do? They got to
What's
stop the run.
hmm.
The Ravens are first in the league with 157.1 yards, rushing yards per game. But the Jags kind of match up with the run as well. They're fourth actually with 92.2 rushing yards per game. So it's going to be a lot of run, but the points are going to be there. You know, you hear some like games
Yeah.
where it's like, oh, there's going to be a lot of running, but not a whole lot of scoring. No, this one's going to be, they can get in the end zone.
Yeah.
So they have to stop the run. We'll see it. But then you're also like, well, if you're going to say that the Ravens need to stop their run, they're fourth. And yes, they're both going to zone in on the run, which will lead for both of them to do some play action, for them to sling the ball as well. But we'll see what happens if they can kind of stop that run and then kind of
Yeah.
force, not Trevor Lawrence, Lamar. Yes. Call me Zach. I cleared my throat.
I can live in a world where Lamar has to beat us with his arm.
Yeah.
I really can. Like, I'm not trying to diss on Lamar. He's having a good season passing the football. He is not a traditional pocket passer. That's what the Jags try to make teams do. We lost the Bengals because we couldn't stop the run one night. That it was weird. I don't know what happened. We are a top 5 rush defense. The whole plan all year has been make teams pass the ball. And it's worked until the last couple of weeks. I think we're going to get some stuff turned around. Like I said, we got some guys getting healthy. I think it's going to be a shootout. If the Jags win, prepare for obnoxious Jags 10s to be back, because I haven't been obnoxious. I've been humble Jags 10s lately.
All right. Yeah.
If we win, the 1 seed is back on the table for the Jags, and our next 3 games are the Bucks, the Panthers, and the Titans. So
yeah.
Obnoxious Jags 10s will be back. So that's my matchup of the weekend. If the Jags are not playing well, don't text me. No one should better text me or be tweeting at me. I'm not going to talk to any of you.
None of us.
None of you.
Well, you've been warned, everybody. And now it is best bet time with your boys. And by the way, Zach's not in here for this one. I just want to clarify, we're not like butting heads. We're not going through like, beef or anything. Or are we? I don't know. Are we?
Pod drama.
Pod drama. I don't know. We'll see. But
No, we
no.
are we are a squad at the end of the day. Some would
Yeah.
say like a squad of a pod.
But let's go to our best bet. I'm going to kick us off. Don't look now, but the Bears, they have won 3 of their last 4 games. I already told you they're kind of in playoff contention. Joe Flacco's story has been nice, but they have been inconsistent for the season. Following a win, the Bears are 3-10-1 against the spread since the start of last season. Just give it short, sweet, and to the point. Give me Bears plus 3.5. Why
I like
not?
that. I like
Let's
that.
go
Justin,
for it. We'll
the
go ahead.
I was gonna say the Browns play the number one amount of man defense, and how do you beat man defense is with an athletic quarterback who can run. Justin Fields can take off when those linebackers are running downfield, covering the tight ends and stuff. So I like that. I like that a lot.
That's how you do it right there.
Should be a close
Compliment each
game.
other. Yeah.
Plus 3.5.
Perfect.
I love getting the hook right there.
Yep.
I definitely take it as soon as you hear this, ladies and gentlemen. You're not going to get closing value at 3.5. I'll just tell you, which is my favorite part of gambling. Sneak peek behind the curtain here. Zach always takes our our parlay like Saturday night.
Sometimes Sunday morning.
Sunday morning, he's like, "What the? These lines are different." I'm like, "Yeah, they don't stay like that. People bet them and they move." So shout out our guy Zach.
He's like, dang it, I got this at a worse line. Dang it.
NFL betting's a lot different than college betting.
Yeah.
All right, my best bet, and this is like the second or third time I've had a best bet on the Colts.
You love them.
It's because I got my boy Gardner out there slinging it around. But I'm taking Colts minus 2.5. The Colts offense has been consistently in the top 15 in every category since Minshew has taken over. They are playing at home, and the Steelers have got a couple pretty big injuries. TJ Watt and Highsmith are both in concussion protocol. It's kind of tough to get out of it the same week that you play a game. Those are their two. Like, they not only do they depend on those guys to get after the quarterback, but they really need them to force turnovers to get their offense in good field position, because their offense is not moving the ball anyway.
Yeah.
Their offense has been very bad. The Colts defense isn't great by any means, but they're pretty good at stopping the run, which is what the Steelers like to do. Even though they're not good at it, they like to just beat their head against a wall and see if it'll finally break. And then they just count on TJ Watt doing a strip sack and setting them up for the game-winning field goal. That's like their game plan. So
that's it right there.
With a chance of Highsmith and TJ Watt being out, that's a big blow to the Steelers' defense. The Colts are fighting for a playoff spot here, and the Colts are 4-0 as home favorites this year. So give them to me minus 2.5. The Wild Ponies are trying to get into the playoffs.
Well, I'll piggyback off of your the Colts do well at home. The Colts have gone over their team total in 6 of their home games. The Colts are averaging 26.5 points per game at home this season, which includes 27 or more in 3 straight. Their team total is set for 21.5. So if you also want to get that but they're putting up points. So I just wanted to throw that little nugget in there off of your best bet.
I like that. If you're gonna bet on a team that's the favorite, I love betting their team total over, because it does normally correlate. If you're gonna bet on an underdog, take an underdog spread and the under in the game. That's normally how an underdog wins, is keeping the score very low. That's some more nerd science we could break down for you a different day, but there's a whole betting strategy of same game parlaying the spread and the under for the underdog, and it hits at a pretty decent rate. All right, so that is me and Mason's best bet. this is the part where things are going to get a little funky. Me and Mason are going to give our parlay legs right here, and then I'm going to kick it back to me and Zach so he can give us his best bet, his parlay leg, and then we'll wrap up the episode. So, Mason, what do you got for your parlay leg?
All right, so I have first quarter under. Yeah, you heard me right. Under 7.5 for the Vikings at the Bengals at -148. Juiced to add to the parlay, -7.5. So all we need is 2 field goals or a touchdown. You still get it. We're talking about 2 teams that have backup quarterbacks, maybe even a third string. You're also talking about a team, the Vikings, we already talked about, that had a 3-0 win against the Raiders. The Vikings are also 12-0-1 to the first quarter under. That is almost perfect, everybody. We have a little wiggle room, like I said, for the touchdown, but nothing more. I like against these 2 teams that start out the game slow. Give me first quarter under 7.5 for the game, Vikings at the Bengals. Put it in the books.
Like that. Nick Mullins has been announced the starter, so third string quarterback.
Working things out a little bit, Going to
Yep.
take some time. All right,
Yep.
perfect.
I definitely like that. All right, I am going with Broncos +5. I'm through the key number of 3 here. So I think they keep it within. It's going to be a pretty close game in my opinion. The Broncos offense has been playing very well, and their defense has had a huge turnaround in the second half of the year, forcing a lot of turnovers. Well, Jared Goff is going on a streak here lately of turning the ball over in almost every start the last 4 weeks. That is not good winning football. So I'm going to take Russell Wilson, Broncos country, let's ride, +5.
Beautiful.
All right, y'all. I'm going to kick us to me and Zach. That is all for Mason this week. He'll be back on Monday for an awesome messing around Monday. All right, to me and Zach. Bye-bye. All right, and that was me and Mason. We broke down all that was going on in the NFL, and then we also gave our best bets and our parlay leg. So now we're going to wrap up the episode. Zach is going to give us his best bet / parlay leg. Zach is diving back into the NFL. He hit last week.
I did hit.
I was the losing leg.
Pain.
Who knew the Tommy
pain.
DeVito magic was gonna come and get me,
Wild.
but it did. Bump that guy and his Italian-ness. Just joking. I don't want the mob after me. Apparently, his agent's in the mob. She saw
Redact that.
Redacted.
All right, my best bet of the week. I am taking. I'm jumping on another bet, kind of the back of another bet that Mason just made. I am taking Bengals money line for a couple reasons. Actually, just one. I think the Vikings are bad. And you're talking to a guy who has a Vikings Super Bowl ticket. It is DraftKings currently. Listen, you can only do so much with a third string quarterback. It is hard to win football games with a third string quarterback, and that's what they are currently working with. So, for that reason, almost exclusively, well, I'll say I have a secondary reason. I think Bengals are fighting for that playoff spot right now. They have something to play for. They're pushing for it, and so, Browning has looked very solid for a backup quarterback and for what he is. And I think Bengals take it. I think I feel pretty good about that one. They're -3, but I'm taking money line.
Yeah, I like that too. Not the Browns. The Bengals are a good football team who lost their quarterback, which can sometimes be the end of your season. But you're talking about a team that has 3 guys at receiver that would start for anyone in the NFL. A very solid defense with a defensive coordinator who should have been a head coach by now. And so he's taking care of that side of the ball. So teams that are not that think they're just going to roll over on the Bengals because Joe Burrow isn't there, they're going to get beat. And I do think the Vikings now are going to have a little bit of a spiral as far as they're starting their fourth different quarterback this year.
It's tough.
And the same team that could only put up 3 points last week against a very bad Raiders team. So
that's very ugly. Yeah.
And Bengals at home. The Vikings don't travel well. They like playing in the dome. So I like the Bengals to just come out, run the ball, control, win the game,
Love it.
and move to 8-6 and kind of further push for that wild card spot. All right, so I did the math. So if you're going to take the parlay with us, guys, it is going to be a same game parlay plus or same game parlay X if you're on DraftKings, which means you can use a sweat-free offer. So if it loses, you get your money back, but it's not losing.
No, not this week. I feel good about it.
So the first two legs, and this is actually going to all be on the Saturday NFL game. So maybe I'll cook something up and have it put out for Sunday as well. But we've got Brown. I keep calling them Browns. I don't know why. I think it's Jake Browning. We have the Bengals money line adding under 7.5 first quarter in that game.
Yep.
And then I have the Broncos +5 that brought us to a nice even +400.
There you go.
For the parlay.
Love it.
Love a nice round number. Makes math easy. 4 times your investment.
Bingo.
That's what I'm talking about.
You bet $100, you make $400.
Exactly.
That's easy money.
That's the easiest. I like that kind of. I like that math. All right, so that is going to do it for today's episode. Thank you guys for joining. Make sure you're following us over on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. We have a lot going on over there with all our posts, our graphics, our snake drafts, all that good stuff. So make sure you're coming over there, commenting, arguing with us. We love it. Keep it live and fresh in the comment sections.
Yeah.
Make sure you join us on Monday for another Messing Around Monday. It's the Christmas season. We're going to have something cooked up for you guys. But until then, have a great weekend and let's hit the parlay.
See ya.